Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Chhatrapati Shivaji, the man who founded the Maratha dynasty. We're going to explore how one person, born in the shadow of massive empires, could rise up and carve out a kingdom of his own. I mean, really think about that question. It's at the very heart of Shivaji's life. His story isn't just history, It's a masterclass in strategy, sheer guts, and leadership against what looked like impossible odds. So how on earth did he do it? Let's find out.
All right, to really get his story, we'll follow his path step by step. We'll start with the upbringing that shaped his whole vision, and then we'll look at his first super bold captures of key forts. We'll get into his legendary clashes with two major empires, see him finally crowned as king, and then we'll unpack the brilliant blueprint for governance that he left behind.
Okay, so to understand the man, you've got to understand the world he was born into. This was a time when the Mughals dominated the north, and powerful sultanates, like Vijayapura, controlled the Deccan region, which is right where he lived. So get this, while his own father was a high-ranking officer for a sultan, his mother, Jijabai, was planting the seeds of rebellion. She was his first and most important teacher, filling his head with stories from the great epics, teaching him about justice and self-rule. You combine that powerful moral compass with some serious weapons training from his mentor, Dadaji Kondadev, and you've got a leader with not just a vision, but the skills to actually make it happen. And this is where things get really interesting. This is that pivotal moment where all those ideas and all that training turn into pure action. Shivaji didn't wait around for someone to give him power. He went out and took it. And he started at an age when most of us are, still figuring things out. He was just 19 years old. 19. At an age when most people are starting their first job, Shivaji was starting an empire. And who was his first target? The very same sultanate his own father worked for, the Adil Shahs of Vijayapura. And look, this wasn't some lucky one-off victory. After he took the fort of Tirana, he just kept going, boom, 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 securing one strategic fort after another, like Raigad and Simhagad. He was building serious momentum. And at the same time, he was building a fiercely loyal army of local Maratha leaders and tribesmen, a force that knew the land way better than any big imperial army ever could. Now, you can imagine these early victories weren't just a minor headache for the guys in charge. They were a direct challenge to their power. And you know what happens when you challenge an empire? They strike back. The Sultan was furious. So he sent in the big guns, a massive army led by his most fearsome commander, Afzal Khan. The order was simple: crush this rebellion. Khan was a legend. He was powerful, and this was going to be Shivaji's first real test against a major military force. So Afzal Khan invites Shivaji for a peace talk, but his real plan was to kill him. The thing is, Shivaji was always one step ahead. He totally saw the trap coming. He didn't just walk in there unprepared. He showed up with a secret weapon, the deadly Vagnach, or tiger claws, hidden right in his hand. And it went down exactly as you'd think. During their embrace, Afzal Khan made his move, trying to stab Shivaji in the back. But Shivaji was faster. He struck first, using those hidden tiger claws to kill the general. It was a legendary victory. He had outthought and outmaneuvered one of the most feared commanders of the time. Defeating Afzal Khan sent shockwaves across the whole region. And pretty soon, an even bigger power took notice: the mighty Mughal Empire. The emperor, Aurangzeb, saw Shivaji's growing power as a direct threat, so he sent his own top commander, Shaista Khan, to the Deccan to shut him down for good. Shaista Khan took over the city of Pune, but for 2 whole years he couldn't catch Shivaji. So what does Shivaji do? He takes the fight directly to him. In this incredibly daring move, he and his soldiers disguised themselves, snuck into the city at night, and launched a surprise attack right on Khan's own house. The Mughal commander was caught completely off guard, lost his thumb in the chaos, and fled Pune in total terror and humiliation. But his rise wasn't just a straight line to the top. After a defeat against another general, he was actually captured and thrown in prison in the Mughal capital, Agra. For most people, that would have been the end of the story. But for Shivaji, it was just another problem to solve. He engineered a brilliant escape, made his way back to the Deccan, and returned more determined than ever to take back what was his. So after that legendary escape, and after a whole series of campaigns to win back his forts, Shivaji was finally ready. It was time to make his rule official.
Time to go from being a rebel leader to a sovereign king.
At this huge ceremony in Raigad Fort, he was formally crowned king. He took the title Chhatrapati, which means emperor, and he named his kingdom Hindavi Swaraj, a term that really stands for self-rule. This wasn't just a party, it was a declaration. It was the official birth of the Maratha Empire. But here's what's so important to get about Shivaji. Becoming king wasn't the end of his story. His real legacy is in the kind of kingdom he built. He was just as much a genius in administration as he was on the battlefield. Militarily, he was an absolute master of guerrilla warfare. I mean, it's the classic strategy when you're the underdog. He knew the hilly terrain of the Western Ghats like the back of his hand. So instead of meeting these huge armies on an open field, he used speed, surprise, and the landscape itself as his greatest weapon against his bigger, slower enemies. And the key to this whole strategy? His network of forts. These places weren't just walls to hide behind. They were the nerve centers of his entire operation. They gave his troops shelter, they provided strategic high ground, and they created this web of control that let him dominate the whole region. And to make sure his kingdom would actually run well, he created the Ashtapradhans, a council of 8 ministers. Each one had a super specific job, from the prime minister running the state to the commander-in-chief leading the army. This wasn't just a group of buddies giving advice. It was a sophisticated cabinet, a blueprint for an organized government that could last. But honestly, what might be the most remarkable thing about him was the code he lived and ruled by. This goes way beyond military tactics. We're talking about the whole philosophy of his kingdom. He had this high standard of morality and incredible religious tolerance. His soldiers had strict orders. You do not attack mosques. If you find a copy of the Holy Quran, you return it with respect. This wasn't just his personal belief, it was state policy. He was building a kingdom based on respect, not just fear. And this is the results of it all. By 1680, the kingdom that a 19-year-old kid started with just a single fort had grown into a dominant power in the Deccan. It's a testament to his vision, his strategy, and his principles. And that brings us right back to our big question from the start. Shivaji's story seems to suggest that true greatness isn't one or the other. It's that rare combination of both. He was a brilliant warrior, for sure, but his legacy lasts because he was also a just and innovative ruler. Which leaves us with one final thought. What's more important in a leader, the battles they win or the world they build?